Hello and welcome back to another episode of Rejected Synths. On this channel I have already featured quite a few Novation machines, and while today's synth isn't another Novation VA, it shares some of the DNA of Novation's ever-expanding line of VA machines. The Red Sound Darkstar is a VA desktop synth developed by the now defunct Red Sound Limited of Buckinghamshire, a short-lived British FX and synth manufacturer. There's hardly any info on Red Sound on the net, other than it was allegedly founded by some rogue Novation employees, and that it started out by creating DJ tools like the Soundbite Sampler or the Federation FX unit. Later on they created Darkstar and Elevator VA synths, and it seemed that these flopped so hard that they buried the company. The Darkstar was released in 1999, and VA was the next big thing, and initially at about 500 euros it seemed like a very attractive offer at that time. For comparison, other VAs of that era, like the Nordrack or the Axis Virus, would have cost you 3 to 4 times as much. The Darkstar soon received a makeover in the form of the Darkstar V2 that sadly ditched the striking color scheme for a more professional look and made away with the DJ style chinch connectors in favor of a proper quarter-inch jack blocks. Before we'll have a closer look at the machine itself, let's first dive into the Darkstar's sound engine. The sound engine offers a total of 8 voices and is 5-part multi-timbre. The voices aren't assigned dynamically, so you have to assign a fixed number of these 8 voices to each of the 5 parts when you create a new sound. As there are only 8 voices to share for the 5 parts, it's kind of hard to use it as a MIDI sound module and create a whole track with it. The factory patches use the multitimbrality to stack multiple sounds on a single MIDI channel, but you can assign individual MIDI channels to each of the 5 parts and try to use it as a sound module. From my experience though, if you use 4 or more individual parts, the Darkstar seems to run out of processing power here and there and randomly craps out from time to time. You get 2 VCOs per voice, and instead of fixed waveforms there's a knob to blend between saw and square. The 2 oscillators can be detuned, synced, ring and pitch modulated, and there's pulse width modulation for the square wave. Oscillator 2 can be set to a number of additional forms like sine, a choice of noises, a formal oscillator or the external inputs that can also be used as a sound source. In theory, the range of oscillator and oscillator mixing choices already offers quite a few less than the usual possibilities. The envelope section offers the usual side of ADSR, these can also be set to respond to velocity. The Darkstar's envelopes are often described as sluggish, so percussive sounds might pose a challenge. As the Darkstar follows the tried and tested formula of subtractive synthesis, there's also a filter section, and here Red Sound settled for the usual suspects of low, high and bandpass filters. The filters can be controlled by either an envelope or the LFO. And yes, that means that there's also an LFO section which features the usual waveforms plus pulse, sample and hold and random. The LFO can be synced to MIDI and key presses. All in all, and except for maybe the oscillator section, the sound engine is pretty run-of-the-mill subtractive synthesis, but more than enough for a very wide range of sounds. Before we take a closer look at the actual controls and connectors, let's listen to what the sound engine can do. Here's a small bit of the built-in demo song that can be accessed by holding Audition and pressing Modulation. Just like I did with the Waldorf Attack demos, I will create a separate video for the full demo song. Here we go. And now, back to the Darkstar's controls. The design of the controls offers direct access to most of the frequently used parameters. While there are also secondary functions for most of the controls, these are easily accessed as Red Sound made the interesting design decision to offer a dedicated shift button for each of the 4 main sections. You're not spared of some menu diving, but again, the bottom section offers dedicated buttons for all sections, as well as a jog dial and arrow keys, and there's a small display too, thus making it a very shallow dive. 2 other good design choices are that there are dedicated part buttons for the direct access of the 5 parts. There's a dedicated audition button, so you don't have to have a MIDI keyboard at hand to audition sounds. The audition button can be configured to play simple notes, but also chords and even arpeggios. Pretty neat. The centerpiece of the Darkstar is the joystick that sits firmly at the very center of the unit. joystick's X and Y axis can be assigned to different parameters. Depending on the chosen parameters, it can be a lot of fun to use. Looking at the back of the unit, there are more positive surprises. There's the always welcome proper size headphone in, for outputs that can be assigned to different parts, stereo inputs that require an adapter if you actually plan to use both inputs, a full MIDI trio as well as a proper clicky power button in the input for the DC adapter. All in all, it's clearly a well designed and well built piece of hardware. But how does it sound? Now that's exactly what we're going to find out next. I've picked a few of the built-in presets to give you an idea of what to expect sound-wise and to demo some live tweaking. Because the Darkstar is multitimbral, the final thing to do is to create a demo song. As I've mentioned earlier, the 5 parts have to share the 8 voices, so some forward thinking is needed. Let's see what I can come up with. And once again, this is the end of the video. If you paid close attention to the last 2 demos, you might have noticed some lag at some places. I guess it's caused by the Darkstar running out of processing power when you use multiple patches and modify parameters in real time. So planning to use it as a 5-part voice module probably isn't the best of ideas. Using the parts to layer just 2 or 3 sounds usually worked fine for me though. While I haven't demoed the audio in this video because it's really nothing to write home about, I have to mention it once more because the Darkstar has another nice trick to offer. There's an alternative OS that turns it into a fully fledged vocoder. Originally, Red Sound had more expansions planned. There's a monosynth OS mentioned in the manual, but only the vocoder OS ever made it into production. Sadly, you can't just flash the OS via MIDI, but have to purchase a pre-flashed EEPROM. These are still available via eBay though, so if you want to give it a spin, go ahead. The bottom of the Darkstar even features a lid for easy installation. All in all, for me, the Darkstar turned out to be a nice synth. It's really well built, easy to use, and the synth engine is flexible enough for a large number of sounds. Sure, it never really sounds authentically analog, yet not fully digital either. It's kind of caught between worlds. You get a nice, strong and full low end, but the highs often sound aggressively digital and noisy. Another thing I really like is the form factor and the control layout. Hadn't it seemingly killed the company it created, it would have been interesting to see where else they would have headed. The elevator, Red Sound's final synth, looks very interesting too, but I haven't managed to ever even see one online for sale. So if I actually find one, it might end up on this channel too. Until then, see you soon with another synth. It probably isn't a Red Sound elevator.